Hey everyone, welcome to Buddhism Talks. I woke up this morning and I saw the headlines, and I particularly saw the headlines of what was happening in Washington, D.C. I saw the future plans for 19 more states in the U.S. and a long list of other things that are happening in the world that were concerning. And so I thought I would check in with my friend Joe Parks, who lives in Maryland, basically Washington, D.C., right? The outskirts of Washington, D.C. I wanted to check in with how he's doing, how the SGI Buddhist members are doing. And also, I thought this was a really good chance for us to encourage each other. And then, if there's anything encouraging in this discussion, we could put this up as a podcast, because it's one thing to talk about having courage and compassion and being a Buddhist when the difficulties are in another city or in another country. But when you wake up in your own city and there's tanks, that's a whole different level of everything. So, Joe, how are you doing?
Thank you, Lydia. I'm doing fantastic. The only reason I can say that is because of the stress and the intensity of what's going on. It has profoundly affected my sense of the importance of my faith and of this practice, and really made me reflect on what it means to be a human being in this world today. Of course, when I look at it from that perspective, I feel great. And so, in that sense, I'm feeling better than ever.
Now, can you explain that to people? Why would this philosophy and your faith and practice change what is clearly a threatening environment and an anxiety inducing environment? What is it about the understanding that you have in this moment from your practice that enables you to say, I feel fantastic?
Yes, President Ikeda wrote a poem called The Son of Jiyu Over a New Land. And in that poem, he directly addressed the racial strife in the United States and the dark history of racial strife. And he encouraged us, saying, first, you must crack the shell of your lesser self. This you must absolutely do. And then he goes on to talk about how in difficult times people seek their origins in their ethnic identity. And the more they do that, then the more people get separated and the easier it is to have conflict. But when the philosophy of the Bodhisattvas of the earth becomes part of mainstream thought, and people's sense of identity can extend back to a sense of identity with the universe as a bodhisattva, as a being who has sprung from the universe with a purpose, then that is how we can overcome the racial strife. And so, in less romantic terms, it means sharing Nam Myoho Renge Kyo with people and helping them to have that experience and encouraging them about having that experience. And here we really are in a state of siege. I'm on a community relations advisory board, and we were discussing the topic of surveys and what kind of personally identifiable information might be coming through these surveys, and whether we should be trying to protect people by limiting the amount of information we ask, or serve people by getting the information we need to serve them. And I was feeling inclined to say, let's go into protective mode. But there was another person on the board, a gentleman. He says to me, they know who you are, brother. They can come for you whenever they want. I can never forget him saying, they can come for you whenever they want. He's come from a country where that's been happening for a long time. And so it's chilling. I don't look at it that way. I look at it that ultimately the function of evil is to provoke good, and the function of good is to overcome evil. Basically means having to dig more deeply and fight harder to create greater and greater good in every situation that comes up. And as I do that, I'm doing better on my job. I'm doing better in my relationships. I'm being recognized in my community as a resourceful leader who can contribute to the community. At the same time, here's something strange, Lydia. it could be quite upsetting for me. But racism is coming out of people. I was in a situation where it was a group dynamic of people who ostensibly are coming together to create dialogue for creating value. They got angry at me. And in getting angry at me, they said racist things, thinking that I couldn't hear what they were saying, thinking I had never heard it before, thinking they could say that around other white people and they would get it, but I wouldn't. And I wrote them a letter, I wrote an email, and I called it out. I called out the two racist things that were said. And I said, here we are, we're trying to create racial harmony, but it is painful for a person of color to be with you guys. I'm not leaving. I'm not abandoning this work. And I know we'll grow out of this, but we have to reflect. And so I feel that this sense of racial solidarity that they were having is made more possible because of the climate. And I think it's largely subconscious. I think mostly they were not aware of their own anger. They were not aware of their own, let's team up against the black guy mentality. Because it's like breathing, it's like water. This is America, you know? And so it took me about 24 hours to absorb it and to come up with the idea of responding with an email. During that interim time, I realized that I've changed. The people who have overcome that kind of mentality, they're with you. They embrace you. It's a strong feeling. I just had dinner with a person I only met a couple of times last night, and he and I talked like brothers. The feeling was so profound. The feeling of appreciation for each other was so deep. And that's what happens in these situations. I think we hear this kind of emergency gets you beyond race. If a person can't get beyond race, that's fine. They're where they are. But those people who can get beyond it and who have any kind of heart, we are getting closer and closer and more inspired and active. And I'm seeing greater good and greater good and greater good.
You mentioned a phrase earlier that the purpose of evil is to bring out good. And that comes from Buddhism. When we're talking about what is it about our philosophy that makes you feel fantastic on some level in the midst of what you're living through, it is these philosophical principles that we turn into reality and that we look for where is evil and impetus for great good. And because that kind of a concept can give us hope and transform a situation, not only is it just a nice thought or a nice concept, we actually look for ways to make that happen, to turn that into action. We look for where that's happening and strengthen it. And so with this siege that you're under, as you said, people are connecting on a much deeper level and going beyond a lot of the limitations that might have stopped them before. Is there anything else that you see happening now in the community?
People are connecting more deeply, and people who are activists, people who are normally fighting for the common people, are gaining in visibility. Their importance is becoming more and more clear, and resources are becoming more and more available for people who are trying to create some value for others. And creative ideas are coming through.
So are you seeing more creativity happening in terms of ideas and solutions and activities?
Yes, I am. I'm seeing a tremendous amount of activity with young people, and I'm really amazed by the ideas that young people are having. And they're activists in carrying those ideas out. There's always going to be good people in good places who can do good things. And these young people are building that kind of network. They're very savvy and very dedicated and very intelligent. It's like a whole other generation of people who just seem to be ready for this moment.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's super, super encouraging. I just want to take us back to a poem that you mentioned at the beginning that is from Daisaku Ikeda that was written to all the members in America. It's called The Son of Jiyu Over a New Land. And this idea of Jiyu is talking about our deeper identity as what is called Bodhisattvas of the earth.
So everyone who chants Nam Myoho Renge Kyo is a bodhisattva of the earth without question. But it goes more deep to the point that we end up being able to say everyone is a bodhisattva of the earth. It's not just
Mm-hmm.
one group of special people. We
Mm-hmm.
have all come here with this sense of mission. But as the Buddha predicted, it's very easy to completely lose sight of one's vow.
Mm-hmm.
So to live as a person who remembers his vow, who's living for this vow, and who sees himself or herself in this context, in this framework, and then we read Nichiren Daishonin's writings every day, and he says, what greater joy could there be? The more times we read Nichiren Daishonin's joy and courage and wisdom and sense of humor as he was facing things far worse than we'll ever face, then this is what I call faith, is viewing
Mm-hmm.
things from that perspective. And I'm compelled to view things from that perspective more than ever.
Mm-hmm. You had said, if I understand this from my faith, then it makes sense. And I think when you say that, what I think of is having a purpose and having a mission. That's what faith basically says. You are born at the right time. This is your time, and you can create value. I just want to go back to the poem. It talks about Jiyu and this identity of being a bodhisattva of the earth without going into a deep explanation and all the history of where that term comes from.
A bodhisattva of the earth is someone who willingly assumes the appropriate karma for being able to help create the most value in this world.
So that's a very short, simple definition of bodhisattva of the earth. But essentially, it is something that any one of us can feel or bring out in our lives. And that is a sense of responsibility for one's own life. Which what it starts with is when you deal with your own karma. But then
Yes.
a sense of purpose in terms of having that karma, and a sense of mission and transforming that karma, not only your own personal life, but also helping others do the same. So when we're talking about being a bodhisattva of the earth, it's
hmm
not something that is assigned to certain people. It's more about a life condition and a sense of purpose, which you might at some point have, and other times you don't. You might have a really bad day and just feel like, I don't have any purpose right now, depending on the life condition. But then you wake up and go, actually, all of my challenges right now are very important. It's really important that I win. And through me winning in my own life and transforming my own life and supporting the life of other people, I'm contributing to a bigger shift in society. So it's an awareness, it's a deepening
And as
awareness.
that awareness ignites, that is the meaning of bodhisattva emerging from the earth.
Exactly. It is an awareness that emerges from our life. And the beauty of that term, bodhisattvas of the earth, is that it's really meant to refer common people waking up and appearing in the earth. The term and the metaphor, the allegory come from the ceremony in the air in the Lotus Sutra, but it's referring to a time thousands of years in the future where the people that are going to transform the world are not magical, mystical leaders or beings, but rather ordinary people that are going to be waking up, to their own value and purpose. I find a much more valuable and practical version of life and the truth to think of that what is required is not some magical, mystical leader, but rather common people, ordinary people realizing that they have immense value, immense potential, and they can make a massive difference to the world, really. So in this poem, he says, you must develop within yourself the life condition of Jiyu, Bodhisattva of the earth. And in modern day terms, that would be developing within ourselves a sense of having eternal value and a mission on the planet, a purpose in this planet, that we're alive for a reason and that we can create value. And in the next section, Joe, do you want to read the next section of the poem?
As each group seeks its separate roots and origins, society fractures along 1,000 fissure lines. When neighbors distance themselves from neighbors, continue your uncompromising quest for your truer roots in the deepest regions of your life. Seek out the primordial roots of humankind. Then you will, without fail, discover the stately expanse of GU unfolding in the depths of your life. Here is the home, the dwelling place to which humankind traces its original existence. Beyond all borders, beyond all differences of gender and race, here is a world offering true proof of our humanity. If one reaches back to these fundamental roots, all become friends and comrades. To realize this is to emerge from the earth.
That was so beautiful. I think that's the key. We have to fight to go back to our core eternal identity as a human being. He's talking about going beyond all the limitations and uniting with people based on our humanity that we all share. And that's the only way out of this. And it is a battle, isn't it?
I'm not hearing anybody say they're not interested anymore. And I ask a lot of people. I just went into the mall just now and I saw this person and I thought, I've got to tell her about Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. I go all the way out to my car to get the cards. And I come back in. And as I'm coming in, this elderly woman with children there looks up at me and smiles. And I said, I'd like to share this with you. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. And then her child was like reaching out and wanted it. I gave them both these beautiful cards. And I said, it brings out your happiness. Oh, thank you.
It's great. Now, I wanted to ask, has there been lectures or encouragement that you've been receiving in the US? There's a lot of members in Washington, D.C. What is the encouragement that you have all been getting?
The guidance that we are all focused on is Sensei's message regarding 2030, where he says, the decade from the Soka Gakkai's 90th anniversary to its centennial in 2030 will be crucial. We must be even more determined to show victorious proof of our own human revolution, to transform all great evil into great good, and to effect a powerful change in the destiny of all humankind.
Wow, I feel so in rhythm, Joe. When that came out in 2020, I
Yes,
took that to heart. I talk about all the time. You know that.
yes,
I mention it. I started all my chanting sessions. That's why my Renaissance chanting is until 2030. So I feel
yes.
really in rhythm now
Oh,
with
you
what
sure are.
your leaders are saying, because I think that's what we need to focus on, right? Is
Yes,
that we are in this crucial 10-year period, right? We're now midway, right? We're midway. It's
yes.
2025. There's 5 years left until 2030. And as he said, he didn't say it's a done deal, did he? He
No,
said it's crucial.
crucial.
And the fate of humanity rests on what we do in these 10 years. And so I'm so encouraged to hear that again, and that is the key guidance.
And then our key focus is on raising 10,000 youth by Sensei's birthday in 28.
Wow,
And
that's
then
great.
with those 10,000 youth, we'll go the rest of the way to 2030.
Wow, that's exciting.
Nichiren Daishonin talks about the importance of the time, and Mr. Toda said, the time of Kosen Rufu is a time when the sun is directly overhead and the full force of the sun is fully felt. This is the time of Kosen Rufu, the force of the law, the force of friendship, the force of truth, the force of compassion. All of these things are just coming up like lotus blossoms as the mud gets murkier. Some people are going murkier, you know,
Yeah.
some people are growing stronger. But I swear, these are the kind of encounters I'm having every time I ask someone if they have heard of Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. I've never felt such a sense of immediate connection with so many people. And normally I only feel this way if I'm really chanting a lot. But the benefits are just like the way people are responding to me, how good I'm doing on my job, because encouraging other people, my life is still flooded with joy and happiness.
You also mentioned encouragement that we need to have confidence on the undercurrent that we're a part of, even though on the surface it looks like things are getting worse. We have to have confidence in the undercurrent of goodness and connection and friendship and compassion, and that undercurrent will eventually transform what we see on the surface. So it's kind of the similar theme as the poem. They're both about going beyond what we see on the surface and basing ourselves on the eternal and the deeper and the profound. The more that we are based on that profound connection that we have as human beings, then the surface patterns will start to change as well.
You're doing a fantastic job. You really are.
Thank you, Joe. It's the same value for me as for anybody else. Like if it was just me by myself chanting, it wouldn't be quite as exciting as when we all get together and just refresh and remember
Yes.
who we are, what we're made of. So next Saturday is our next Renaissance 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. chant, and I have determined that I will do them until 2030. So
Thank
I
you so
welcome
much.
so I welcome any Buddhist to do anything like that, even if it's their own personal chant. Like once a month, I'm doing this extra chanting towards 2030. I have found it to be so valuable, encouraging, and refreshing. It's just amazing. But we can all make different causes in different ways. I know the other areas you've been active in are obviously your community and also in terms of creativity, your poetry. And so last Saturday, I had called you up and said, "Hey, do you want to do a podcast?" And that day, you were busy with both. Do you want to say a little bit about what you were doing last Saturday? Because you were putting what we talk about into action. So I would love to hear a little bit about that.
Thank you. So I attended one poetry reading, and that was fine. That was great. But the next meeting was more of a community meeting where people got together to share sacred text and poetry to
Wow.
encourage each other. I read a poem at that meeting, and 4 people from that meeting came to my meeting the next day. I had 4 guests.
Wow.
Yes. And at that meeting, this one young woman who has been to a couple of our discussion meetings, she came to this Baha'i meeting with a prepared written experience of how wonderful it was to attend our Kosen Rufu Gongyo.
Wow.
How amazing it was to sit in a room full of people chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. That is like a perfect illustration to me of how ready people are. It's a real shakabuki party in in Washington because everybody's ready.
Wow.
Nobody thinks, well, maybe some other time I'll try to deepen my sense of spirituality. Right now, I'm just going to play ping pong.
I think this is the moment, right? All of a sudden, life is just so much better when you have a solid philosophy that you can ground yourself on, that you can grow from. But I loved what the woman said that, when she expressed how she loved being in a room of people chanting and people who were like, had hope and were inspired, encouraging each other. And I think finding those environments, and even for the people who don't want to practice, who might be listening to this, like creating those environments, or is one of the best things that you can do. I feel like your chanting has changed in these past months.
I'll
Like
tell you, Lydia,
how are you chanting now?
I well, for one thing, I've adopted the galloping horse rate of chanting. I use the SGI USA app. We had a guidance session with a tremendous leader. He came to a mini treasures meeting, which is for people of the older generation. And at first he was talking as though he was an older person trying to deal with the younger generation. But then he very subtly reversed it and said, really, the youth are the mentors, and we're here to support and to follow their lead. He says,
Mm.
but we have to chant youthful daimoku, chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo youthfully. It says, I used Chat GPT and I said, what piece of music has the pace of a galloping horse? Because that's the pace that Nichiren Daishonin said is ideal. And so Chat GPT came back with the William Tell Overture.
What is the tune of that piece?
It's
You want
the
to?
William Tell Overture. It goes like and and so I said, yeah, but I can't quite equate that to a rhythm of chanting. I said, what does that sound like? And then I thought, oh my goodness, now I've introduced something. But anyway, he did it. He said, it sounds like this, you know? And then he also said that on this app, if you set the rhythm to 50 Nam Myoho Renge Kyos per minute, that's the pace.
So that's a good tool. So there's an SGI USA chanting app, and you can set the speed.
You can read the sutra, even has a
Yeah, you
little
can do
bell
Gongyo.
icon so you can go ding, ding, ding.
That's so cute. Oh, that's awesome. You can't mimic the sound of that daimoku, can you?
Sure. So it's like yo holding and kill them, yo holding and kill them, yo holding. Since I've been chanting that way, it's just been like woo, very refreshing.
My daimoku's really sped up lately too. I mean, I've always chanted quickly, you know that, right?
Yeah.
But lately it's been really amazing. And then you shared that William Tell overture with me. So it was just even more inspiration to keep going. I think I'm like half SGI USA member now just from hanging out with you. Do you know what I mean? I get the
Yes.
guidance direct. So my daimoku's like really, really
Wow.
powerful lately and always fast. And I met a member from India this week, and that was incredible. Like we did an hour together, and it was the most powerful chanting. Like an
Oh,
hour went by like nothing. Like
oh,
nothing. It
that's
was so
wonderful.
great. I have an article of his from a long time ago that I've used forever. It's his
Oh,
lecture on prayer.
wonderful.
And I every single person that I have ever given that lecture to,
Mm.
it has completely transformed their practice. You know, it's so I don't know him, obviously. I've never met him, but how lucky for you to be in that room and then through you for me to get that guidance on like remembering the
Oh,
importance of having really vibrant and transformative chanting. Is there anything else you want to share at this point that's been hugely encouraging?
and so additionally, we received guidance from Dean Strauss, who's the general director of the SGI USA, and he said a couple of things that were very wise, very practical. He said, we are not here to teach people about which religions are inferior and superior. We are here to help people discover and believe in their own Buddha nature. So we don't need to waste time in any kind of religious debates. We don't need to waste time bashing other religions or
Yeah.
holding ourselves aloof or above. You know, that whole feeling simply needs to be the very, very, very pure and basic desire to help people recognize their own potential.
Well, that's great. Yeah, I mean, we just have to focus on people's humanity and connecting on that level.
But let me
And
say, Lydia, if I
yeah,
may please, that I
sure.
believe it what he said can be applied very directly to the political dynamic that we're seeing, where we have people who are really fanatic about their beliefs and quick to try to enforce some kind of brutal domination of anyone who doesn't go along with their beliefs. And so applying that guidance to the political situation makes it much more clear, and it really protects all of us, and it protects the forward motion of Kosen Rufu. Because if you have a drunk uncle in the house and he's just going to be there, then you deal with him as a human being. You deal with him at the level that he can handle. And you try
Mm.
to help him understand and experience the best that's within him. Because that's your uncle, that's your mother's brother. And so now I feel empowered to love everyone. This experience that I shared with you, which when I first met you, the person I was then, that would have
Mhm.
been a terribly painful experience. It would have made me feel it really would have made me feel that I can't trust any white people. Really, they've all got some kind of racism to them in America,
Mhm.
and that would have dominated my feelings. But because of how much I've been chanting to understand and to recognize and to appreciate other types of people, especially in the extreme cases that we see, to really challenge myself to try to find some love. As a child, Black kids grew up thinking about what we would do to the Ku Klux Klan when we get older. And now here we are, the Nazis and the Ku Klux Klan are in control. And that old way of thinking of an eye for an eye or everything like that has just has to go. And again, we come back to the fundamentals of faith. All people are Buddhas. Everyone's a Bodhisattva of the earth. Maybe they haven't awakened, but hey, maybe it's your job to wake that one up. We can
Yeah.
see people who do not seem to be human necessarily. Certainly, they don't see us as human. And at that moment, that's quite a confrontation. You don't see me as human, I'm not letting you any closer. This is it.
Mhm.
That kind
Mhm.
of a confrontational feeling is what I was groomed for. But
Mhm.
that's all expedient stuff. I can let it all
Mhm.
go because I overcame that by chanting so sincerely for years to be able to appreciate Donald Trump's humanity. And I succeeded. And that I can appreciate other people. Now I can appreciate anybody's humanity. And so
Yeah,
I
it's
feel very
amazing.
liberated because you know how much I suffered before
Yeah.
from unexamined hatred that was
Yeah.
just consuming me.
Well, I think it goes back to, uh, the levels from which we live,
Mm.
right? Because I think, like you said, the lesser self, the superficial cultural version of myself responds in a cultural way,
Yes,
right? And it
yes,
responds in, as a woman,
hmm,
as a Croatian, as a
yes,
whatever the layers are.
yes.
But at the same time, back to that poem, I have to go beyond that and go back to my common humanity with people. And it is really tough work. I mean, this is why the karma of humanity hasn't changed for hundreds and thousands of years. And this is why we've had wars for hundreds and thousands of years. And this is the crucial time, like this 2025, it's the midpoint. And this is the time to dig deeper and do that fight, looking for the commonality, finding the commonality, like actively seeking it out when we go out to stores, when we engage with people, definitely in our Buddhist meetings. Even in Buddhist meetings, that's a challenge. Sometimes there's all kinds of people that practice, all
That's
kinds of
right.
people. And there's all kinds of misunderstandings. There's all kinds of triggers that
Hmm.
people have. In my case, that happens to me regularly in waves. Let's say people might have issues with their mom, and because I have a strong mother quality, somehow
Mm.
I bring out their mother karma, and then they project the issues they had from their mother onto me, and it's like, A, I'm not your mom. B, that's actually not who I am, and I'm sorry for your karma. Like, you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
so even in a Buddhist realm, sometimes you have to deal with that, but the only way out of it is to go back to our sense of humanity and go back to that mission. So from my end, I have found two things super inspiring recently. And we're going to end this podcast with a quote that you posted today that actually is in my slide deck as well, is one of my favorites. Again, I'm telling you, I'm SGI USA partially. I'm always in rhythm with you guys. So I just want to read this section. It's from the lecture on the heritage of the ultimate law of life. And even though I had just read the lecture and I had highlighted certain sections of it, somehow this week it really hit me. And he talks about the importance of facing a struggle head on, and that unless you face it head on, like fully look at it, you cannot bring out the joy of Buddhahood, because that's the goal. The goal is that we face what we have to face, but still are able to bring out joy in the midst of the struggle. So I just want to read this quote that really struck me this week. Our efforts to attain Buddhahood in our present form and thereby embody the principles of earthly desires or enlightenment and the sufferings of birth and death or nirvana are always filled with joy. For example, when we tackle our problems and sufferings head on and summon forth our wisdom to find a way to surmount them, almost without realizing it, we come to savor a state of immense joy, our lives overflowing with a powerful life force that enables us to put everything that has happened into perspective and to take it all in our stride. So at the very beginning of this quote, he mentions two concepts. One is earthly desires are enlightenment, and the sufferings of birth and death are nirvana. So both those concepts are transformation concepts. The first one is this idea that we take our desires and we turn them into enlightenment. The other one is that we take our sufferings, even death, and turn it into enlightenment. Are both of them are transformation. They're action concepts. It's like this is
Yes.
what you are doing when you're chanting. And
Yes.
they are the two really big characters on the left and right of our Gohonzon that are in Sanskrit. So when we're chanting, that's what we're activating is the transformation part of our lives. It's like a machine where you hit the on button and all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm going to take all my sufferings and I'm going to turn them into something great. But the part that really hit me in this is that it's only when you hit things head on. We have to look. I have to look at those tanks that I see in your streets. This I have to face what's actually happening and then bring out the wisdom and the expansiveness of life. And then I can feel joy in this. And we're just kind of going back to the beginning of this podcast when I asked you, like, so you got tanks on the streets, how are you feeling? And you said, I feel fantastic, which is right, which is like, I don't know if I'd be that fantastic, but I think it's because you're basing your life on this idea that you are in the middle of transformation. The country is transforming, you as a person are transforming. It is an active, moving, dynamic process that's happening. You're not looking at anything as a fixed state or like this
No,
is how it's going
that's
to be.
true.
When you look at everything as moving parts and
Yes.
everything having a potential to turn into value, then even facing the darkest stuff, you will be able to get to an expanded view with the chanting, especially where you can find hope. And that is much harder when you look at some of the sufferings that are going on in different parts of the world, especially like Gaza, and then obviously Ukraine and all these other things that are going on. Only you can only survive looking at that full on from a perspective of transformation and movement. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
you can't look at that and I can't.
No,
I'm sensitive. Like I
we
can't.
can't look at it from the perspective of this lifetime alone.
Yes, that's right. The hope for me comes from looking at all of these situations, looking at them as events that are in movement, humanity that is in a period of change, and and looking at it as a flow of evolution of humanity, and also looking at it as we've got another 5 years to make a dent. I'm not saying we're going to change everything around in 5 years. We can kind of steer the ship a little bit in another direction and hopefully see some shift by 2030. And as a minimum, be in a position where there's a lot more people who are hopeful and strong and connected and also practicing and also having access to Namyo Horenge Kyo so that they can do their own transformations in their own lives. So before we close, is there anything else you want to say to encourage anybody that's listening to this and who might be looking for a little bit of encouragement?
For me, the most encouraging thing that Buddhism can offer is a complete reliance and belief in the principle of causality over and beyond a single lifetime. If this was the only lifetime and the only thing that mattered were material concerns, that's how we're living right now,
Yeah.
you know? And so we have lost the idea of a spiritual reality. We've lost the idea of our own spirituality. If we could see ourselves as beings who are just here temporarily to fulfill a mission, the most unbelievable dramatic mission, you know, with trumpets and everything as we gallop in to danger and save the day. We can only really feel that way if we go beyond materialistic terms, beyond only thinking of ourselves as knowing each other in this one lifetime. Once the concept of knowing everyone that we know in many lifetimes, then it's not really an existential threat that there are troops on the ground in DC because they can't any of us. Our lives are eternal. And all that matters is what is our direction? What is our devotion? What is our vow? And so we are the most fortunate people because we have confidence in this. And we can enjoy, just as Nichiren Daishonin and every other great Buddhist mentor demonstrated, was
Mm.
joy in the midst of adversity and confidence in the dark of the night, the nearer the dawn, and actual proof, you know, that yes, everything that happened was to create the greatest amount of value possible in our lives, just the way we wanted it. That type of faith makes killing completely unnecessary under any circumstance. And so
Mhm.
it means love isn't limited. If this is your eternal family, if this is something that cannot be taken away, if this is a family of people who can somehow have a victory in their lives, no matter what happens, then it's unnecessary to contemplate killing other people to protect your family. And in fact, the importance of the family is actually more beautiful and more clear and more deeply treasured. Because now, okay, we have to create a family that where all the members of that family can be happy and can enjoy victories and can overcome anything that happens. So talking with you, Lydia, has given me deeper confidence in everything that I have been feeling. And now that I've been able to talk with you and express it with you, and we share it together, now I feel 100 times even more fantastic.
Oh,
But
good.
honestly, I hesitate to just make it that way. I don't feel fantastic about any of this stuff, but I feel fantastic about the cause that it is for me to experience deeper happiness, deeper conviction, and greater victories. And and I'm very grateful to be alive at a time when young people are coming to me and they're like, what's going on? What can we do? And we all sit down and we chant together, and I watch them win and they watch me win. And this is what Nichiren Daishonin had. This is why Buddhism survived for 700 years until Mr. Makaguchi, because the comradeship of people who chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo and believe in each other and believe in these principles, these of universality. Nothing can happen that can destroy these relationships or this happiness. And
Mhm.
more people are going to want in on that,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, I look forward to that. Thanks so much, Joe. So before we go, I just want to read a quote that you posted today that is one of my favorite, and I put a title to it when I in my slides. It talks about the power of a single life moment.
Mm,
So here is the quote: Buddhism teaches that through a change in the depths of our own life, a change in a single life moment, we can transform ourselves and our environment and move everything in the direction of hope, happiness, and victory. In other words, your determinations and prayers right now can tear down seemingly unsurmountable barriers and open a broad gateway to growth. Your greatest potential lies in the fact that you can create an amazing future starting from this moment, this day, and this year. And your daily practice, chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, is the most powerful driving force for your efforts to plant the wonderful seeds for that future. When you chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, the brilliant sun of a new year rises within you and dispels the darkness of suffering. For those of us who uphold the mystic law, every day is a New Year's Day. My dear friends, capable people, shining with the bright hope of a new day, let's advance together with the sun, embracing as our motto, the future is now. Daisaku Ikeda. So
Thank you.
I absolutely love that quote because it's just a reminder that doesn't matter what we're facing right now, even if it looks completely overwhelming and daunting, that we can make a shift in a moment, in like a condensed moment of life where we're like, oh, I'm going to change this, or I can absolutely transform, I can absolutely overcome, and get excited about your own power to transform any situation.
Yes.
So
Thank you.
thank you so much, Joe. As
Thank
always,
you.
this has been great. I'm so happy and relieved to hear that you're doing well. And I thank
Thank
you
you.
so much for sharing the guidances and the encouragements that you're getting in the US.
Thank you.
As long as all the SGI USA members are solid and strong and that hopeful, it will definitely have an impact in the whole country and in the world. So we're all with you and chanting for everyone's victory, as they say. Thank you so much, Joe, and we'll see you again.
So wonderful. Thank you very much. What a treasure.